Once upon a time, in a land far away, lived a boy called Tom. Tom was a poor but happy boy. As Tom and his mother had no money, each day he had to beg and rely on the kindness of strangers. Life was simple for Tom. Although Tom didn't have much in life, what he did have was love, friends, and of course, fun. There's an old proverb that says, "The grass isn't always greener on the other side of the fence." But for two young boys, they were soon about to find out. Inside the palace lived a prince called Edward. Every morning he would get up whenever he pleased. Edward had nothing in common with Tom. Oh, well, there was one thing. Life for Edward was easy, but he wasn't happy. The life of a prince was easy, but it certainly wasn't any fun. Every day was exactly the same as the last. Boring. But then, one day, something different happened. The children knew the king didn't like the poor people in his kingdom, but without their only ball, they had nothing to play with. Someone had to go over the fence and bring it back.
"If the guards catch me, they'll put me in prison,"
said Tom. His friends knew this to be true, but they didn't wait around to find out.
"Hello,"
said Edward.
"Where are your friends?" "They've gone home. Where are yours?" "I don't have any."
Tom felt sorry for the prince, and so he offered to be his friend. Edward never had so much fun. And Tom was pleased to have made a new friend, especially one who was a prince and who wouldn't throw him in jail.
"I've never met anyone who looked just like me before." "Me either." "If you went to the palace dressed as me, I bet no one would know the difference. And if you went back to the village dressed as me, I bet no one would know you were a prince."
This gave the boys an idea, and so they decided to put it to the test. Because Edward had never been to Tom's house before, Tom drew him a map to show him the way.
"Hello, Tom,"
said Tom's mother, not realizing it wasn't Tom at all.
"I'm so tired. I need to go to bed. Where is my bed?"
"Where it always is, silly.
"I'd like something to eat first. What's for supper?"
There's only one piece of bread left, but that's for breakfast."
Tom thought that this was a joke. How can people live like this? He thought to himself as he settled down for the night on his straw bed.
Aren't you forgetting something? You've still got your chores to do.
And so Edward did Tom's chores, wondering if the fun would ever start. But for Tom, it already had. As the rain came in through the holes in the roof, Edward lay on the itchy straw, wishing he was back at the palace in his own nice warm bed. Edward realized this wasn't a bad dream after all, and he vowed to go straight to the palace and tell Tom they'd both made a dreadful mistake and that he wanted his life back.
"But what about you?"
I'll eat when you bring home some food."
"How will I do that?"
The same way you always do.
But Edward had a better idea. He would go inside the palace and get Tom's mother some food. After all, they had plenty. But it didn't exactly work out as he planned. Edward was starting to realize the life of a pauper wasn't any fun at all. He missed the palace and the king and the queen, the nice meals and his comfy bed, and he wondered if he would ever be able to return.
You're scaring my customers. Stay away from my restaurant, pauper.
Pauper, I'll have you know I am the prince. I will have you thrown in jail for that.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Your Highness. I didn't realize I was speaking to the Prince of Paupers. I didn't recognize you without your crown.
Young prince, you must come quickly.
The servant told Tom the king was very ill. The palace doctors couldn't find out what was wrong, and they feared he may die. That meant only one thing.
I fear my time is over. You are to be king, my son.
King? I don't know how to be a king.
The procession was arranged for the prince to meet his subjects. When the people heard the news, they were keen to meet their new king. The old king wasn't particularly liked because he didn't really care much about the poor people of his land. Tom was right. He didn't know the first thing about being king. All he knew was how to be poor. He promised the poor people the first thing he would do when he became king was to make sure everyone had enough to eat.
Wait, he's not the prince. I am.
The people laughed and said Edward was just a pauper like them. But they told him to cheer up because the new king had promised them food and he would take care of them all.
New king?
Asked Edward, not understanding. The people said the old king was dying and they'd wished he'd hurry up because the new king seemed a whole lot nicer. They told him the old king didn't care about them. He only cared about himself. Tom was enjoying his new life as prince, but hearing this reminded him about how much he missed his mother and the love she gave him.
Guards!
Said Tom.
Let the boy through! I must go to the palace straight away and see my father who is ill, but they won't let me in.
What is the meaning of this?
It's true! This is the real prince!
And who are you?
I'm just the pauper.
Guards, seize him. Take him to the palace jail.
I order you to leave him alone. He is not a pauper. He is my friend.
When Tom heard this, he realized there was no shame in being poor. Both he and Edward had something all the money in the world couldn't buy: a true friend.
It's happening. I can feel it. I'm about to die. I feel a little bit better. Oh, wait a moment. Ah, yes. That's it. I feel as right as rain now.
Said the king. He hadn't been dying at all. He'd been so greedy, as usual, that he'd eaten so much food it had given him wind. Enough wind to fly a kite. Although Edward wasn't king, he was able to keep Tom's promise to the poor people of his land. You see, Edward, just like Tom, knew how it felt to be rich. He also knew how it felt to be poor. And they'd both learned that if you can help people less fortunate than yourself, then that was a good thing to do. But most of all, they'd learned the old saying was true. The grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. Or maybe it is. Sometimes.